This is an experiment of sorts. I'm going to try to see how this works. Of course, I'm learning to talk on the microphone and learning how to record this story and trying to put it together. What I'm doing today is just going through some slides and talking about them. This first slide here is of looks like an impounded steel. I have a moonshining as a part of a story because my family had some history of moonshining. My grandfather was a moonshiner. He was arrested and went to prison for moonshining in, I don't know, the 30s or 40s. And it put quite a financial hardship on our family. And from what I heard, the winter that he was in prison, the family almost starved to death. They were left to eat dried beans. But they made it through. Also, the family had a substantial amount of land that was impounded and taken from them to pay the fine for moonshining. This right here, of course, is a steel. Looks like it was impounded by what they called the revenuers. Okay. This is looks like a typical house in my hometown when I was a little kid. Right here, or underneath the house there on the foundation was typically flat stone. I don't know, I can't really tell what that is, but typically it was flat stone, and a lot of times the houses weren't painted. They were tin roofs. Sometimes they were tar paper covered. Okay, this picture here is a coal truck. There's a lot of memories of coal trucks when I was a kid. The character that I'm wanting to talk about at this point is Ott. Ott was actually, I got the name from one of my mom's uncles. He drove a big truck like this, and they were pretty much independent coal haulers. They went and got coal at the coal mine, loaded it up, and took it to people's house for a fee, or sold the coal. They did that in the wintertime, and in the summertime, my grandfather done it too. My grandfather, Red, he would do, I think it's called truck farming. He would go down farther south and get produce, like watermelons and corn and all that, and drive it up north and sell it off his truck on the side of the road. And apparently, he done pretty good doing that. But anyway, these trucks play a big part of my memory in the story. The story here is that Odd was a coal truck driver, and he killed a kid while he was driving intoxicated. He was been drinking because his wife was dying, and he was all alone, and she was all alone while he was at work. This is almost, it's like it's some type of meeting, of course, in a small town. This right here was it's one of two things. Either it's a religious meeting or it's a union meeting. You wonder how people could hear all the way in the back here in the old days, at the back of the crowd. This picture here reminds me of my hometown when I was a little kid. I was from a washed out coal town, mainly strip mining where I'm from, but I can remember the town getting decorated up in the winter time. This is a picture of a woman and her kids in an old shack. In reality, these kids look pretty clean. A lot of kids I saw back in those days, in the early 60s, late 50s, were not this clean, but this lady, maybe they were expecting company, and she's cleaned up. This is another scene is on in the story of Ott, is that he rapes someone, and this is, of course, somebody depicting him being raped. This is a undertold story that you often think of just men drinking moonshine back in the in a day. And this is a picture of a female moonshiner or drinking moonshine. In fact, there were many female moonshiners. This is out in the woods village. Like a lot of people lived out in the country, and it's hard to tell if it was several houses here or just one house and outbuildings. But that's a typical road that I remember when I was a kid. A lot of the back roads were not paved. They weren't even gravel, they were dirt. This is a family, looks like coal miner, overhauls, real popular. They're good work clothes, good practical. And of course, if you could see the kids' feet, they probably wouldn't have shoes on. This is a typical coal mining family. They look well fed, though. I mean, it was a hard working bunch, but the kids seem to be well fed. This is another old-fashioned house that looks a lot like the ones I remember. A patched up roof, either tin roof or patched up with other things. Lord knows what, clothes hanging on the line, dirty walls, sinking roof, out in the country. This perhaps is where I lived at. I saved this picture. I either wanted to use this or there's a couple more in here I thought would be good for where I lived with his wife. This is a coal train. In reality, the town I lived in didn't even have railroad tracks. Where I lived at was a strip mining town, so all their coal was hauled over the roads. Railroads typically were close to pit mines or shaft mines that went into the mountain. And what this picture here is depicting is what happened a lot in the Depression, I hear, is that kids would either go walk on the track looking for coal that fell off to heat their family's house, or they would jump on a stalled train and try to steal a few lumps of coal. That's how poor they were when things were going bad. This is an interesting picture. This is in my lifetime. I can vaguely remember people talking about John F. Kennedy visiting Kentucky and the coal miners and talking about how he was going to improve conditions. He was always a charismatic guy, even to a 5 or 6 year old like me. This is a picture of a mythical gypsy. When I was a kid, it was gypsies came around, and it was almost as like the carnival was coming to town. I don't remember seeing a new gypsy, but I remember them selling furniture, selling siding, selling roofing, selling crafts, and doing odd jobs. And there was always a wariness about the gypsies. Either they were going to steal something or they were going to steal you, a kid. Here's another country house. I can remember several of these when I was a kid. This one looked kind of realistic. There's not a whole lot of windows. There's a tin roof. It looks like it's actually a log cabin. Even at that time, it was probably 100 years old. There wasn't a lot of glass windows there. This is when the politicians came to Kentucky. I believe this is Lady Bird and Lyndon Johnson. Will Rogers. He's a kind of a poet, philosopher, country cowboy, I guess, from the 30s. I think the rest of the quote was, "Moonshine is better than no liquor at all." This lady here was a famous moonshiner. and she was quite an upstanding lady in the community. She took her money and paid for the care of sick people, feeding, bought food for people, coal, took care of the whole community with the money she made off of moonshining. This is a more modern day system of hauling coal. I didn't see much of these when I was a kid, but as you can see, it's almost like they're making a train out of these carloads of coal. It's another picture of a gypsy. This is kind of a romantic version. Vaguely, when I was a kid, I remember some gypsies, or actually when I was a teenager, that perhaps looked like this. They were kind of attractive and such, but most of the times, no. I didn't see gypsies that looked like this. Here's an old country store. This looks more fixed up and modernized as kind of I don't know, a tribute to what a country store looked like. But I can remember some when they had old wood burning stoves in them, and sell bologna and cracker sandwiches, sold 6-ounce bottles of Coke with peanuts, and on and on. You get everything you needed at the country store. This is a tribute to miners. This looks like the one on the statue or memorial in front of the state capitol building in Indianapolis. I've got some pictures I took myself, and this looks like some of them, but it wasn't labeled the picture I got. This is another country family. This woman had quite a brood. My grandmother had a bunch of kids, and probably about, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, actually, that's about how many she had, but 3 of hers died within weeks of each other when they were very small, of perhaps the flu or the measles. A lot of people died in diseases before they lived or before they grew up back in those days. It was not uncommon for a whole family to be wiped out by disease. This looks like a lot like my grandma. This is my granny sitting in a rocker next to the potbelly stove. Okay, here's another Kennedy. This is Bobby Kennedy visiting Kentucky and the poor people in the mid to late 60s. I don't know why I put that in there. I can just remember old men on a town square walking around. Usually had something to give to little small kids like me. A 5-year-old or younger was a piece of candy or a coin or a penny or something. But I always liked butter rum. You hardly see them anymore. Okay. This is just some type of propaganda sign. Looks like they were against liquor and trafficking. But the county where I'm from is still dry. Well, I take it back. It may have just recently went wet, but all my life it was dry, and there was people frequently had moonshine. Here's a coal truck.